Hey gang, this episode of WTF is sponsored by Stamps.com. Go to Stamps.com and type in WTF when you click the radio microphone to start a no-risk trial and get a $110 bonus offer. That's Stamps.com. Enter WTF. Do it up.
Lock the gate!
Are we doing this? Really? Wait for it. Are we doing this? Wait for it. How? What the fuck?
WTF.
And it's also, what the fuck? What's wrong with me? It's time for WTF. What the fuck?
With Marc Maron.
Okay, let's do this. How are you, what the fuckers? What the fuck buddies? What the fucking ears? And what the fuck nicks? Let's keep it tight. I am Marc Maron. This is WTF. Thank you for joining me. Today on the show, Mindy Kaling from The Office. Yes, that Mindy Kaling. I will be talking to her, but can we do a couple of things before? Those of you who are hanging in, sticking with me, want to hear me chat about some important things? Important things. First, where am I playing, you ask? Hey, Mark, where can we see you? Well, how about this weekend at the Gildafest in Grand Rapids, Michigan? March 15th, I'll be doing a stand-up show, and March 17th, I'll be doing a live WTF with Drew Hastings, Tommy Johnigan, Kevin Nealon, Alan Zweibel, with hopes of Jim Gaffigan. You can go to laughfestgr.org for information on that. I will be at the Comedy Attic in Bloomington, Indiana, March 23rd through 25th. Go find that. Also, on the 27th of this month, we're doing a live WTF at the Tripany House, which used to be the Steve Allen Theater, tripanyhouse.org, TREPANYHOUSE.org. Might be sold out. Check that out. All right, enough of that. Oh, can I also do this, please? Do you mind? Can you give me a second? My old friend Rob Sacker, who used to own and run the Luna Lounge, which many of you have heard about on this podcast, on the Lower East Side, where we did the Luna Lounge, the original alt comedy shows in New York in the 90s. They also did a lot of music, but he's written a book called Wake Me When It's Over, and I recommend it. Not because I'm part of the cover and there's some stuff in there on me, but because he wrote a book about a time that is no more and was important to me and to many others. You can go to wakeme.net to get hold of that book. Now, what else is going on? A Day in the Life on Hulu, Morgan Spurlock's documentary program, premieres today on Hulu, and the topic is me. Marc Maron, documentary style. I know some of you are thinking, Mark, how much more of you do we need in our lives? How much more of you can we take? That's a question that was raised kind of clunkily by Steve Heisler a week or so ago in the Onion AV Club in his article, Are We Nearing Comedy Podcast Overload? Well, look, I'm not going to shit on Steve Heisler. Certainly I'm not going to shit on the Onion AV Club. They've been very kind to me, and I like their writing. The premise of this is basically that, well, if you got a comedian that you like, and he's got a podcast on once or twice a week, and I go to clubs and I see him doing comedy, and also I buy his comedy records, why would I want to see that guy? All the mystique is destroyed. It's not special anymore. Because basically he's saying that he can listen to my podcast, hear me talk about something, and then he says he went to 2 different shows here in Los Angeles, unpublicized shows that I was not publicized as being part of, and I was trying to work out material. Sometimes, as you know, I think about things on this show out loud, and I go to, in the back of my head, I say, holy shit, I should explore that comedically. And then I start chiseling away at it. I just think it's a false premise. I think that if you're a fan of somebody's and you hear them talk and you like the way they think, why wouldn't you want to go see him? I'm sorry that Steve Heisler wasn't surprised when he showed up at 2 small shows and saw me working on the same bit twice, because I was trying to get into shape for when I go out and play for publicized shows out on the road when I'm doing an hour and I'd like to have some new material. I'm sorry that this guy wasn't surprised or excited to see me go through the process of honing a bit from raw thought and raw talk into a stand-up comedy piece. Now, obviously, many of you know that, look, some of you don't like me at all. Some of you are annoyed with me. Some of you have grown to like me. Some of you think that I talk too much or I'm too honest about stuff. But I'm saving some things. I'm hiding things from you people. I want you to know that there are some things that I don't share. Some of you don't even know what I look like. I do shows and people come up to me and they say, wow, you sounded a lot fatter, which is always a great icebreaker with me. If you really want to, win my heart over in that moment that we meet each other after a show, that is a good one. You sounded so much fatter. You're not fat at all. That's great. Why don't you hang out here, sit with me while I meet other people? That's what'll happen. But I understand the argument. Obviously, I chose to do. He quotes Chris Hardwick in this article, and he sort of takes the lead from another article that basically is talking about comedy records. Because at some point, Hardwick said that podcasts are the new comedy albums. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not doing a comedy record here. I mean, right now, do you hear an audience laughing at what I'm saying? I mean, am I even saying something that's funny? No, it's a completely different mode of expression, a completely different medium. And the problem I have with articles like this is podcasting is a small, young medium. We're trying to grow it. We're trying to bring more people into it. Obviously, there will come a time where most all listening of radio product or audio product will be on demand. But right now, we're still struggling to get people to get past figuring out how to get a podcast. There's still a lot of people like, a podcast? Do you just get on the computer? Yes. Are you a moron? I just don't know why the criticism. I mean, I think that he's preaching to a very small choir when he talks about any sort of mystique being destroyed by comedians who are podcasting and whether or not we've hit some sort of limit with comedy podcasting. I think it's really just starting. And I also was a little upset that he diminished the process of working out a bit that is part of our process because he showed up at two shows that I was anonymously on and got upset that I wore the same shirt twice. I like the shirt. Back off. So needless to say, if you want to get more of me or see me in my house or walk through a day with me, this Day in the Life on Hulu, which premieres tonight, I liked. And I don't like myself all the time. Maybe half the time. Some days are better than others. But this thing was really shot well. I think it was an honest portrait of what my day looks like. And I thought it was compelling. And that's not because I necessarily find myself compelling. It was just interesting to watch. I'm happy there's not a lot of that out there and that maybe it'll surprise some of you. I had a guy pitch a documentary on me. This guy, Barry Blaustein, wanted to shoot a full-length documentary feature on me about a year or so ago. And I just couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle the idea. I, believe it or not, felt like I would be intruded upon. And documentary filmmakers are like, no, we're just going to fade into the woodwork. Except you're going to be right there when I wake up. Except you're going to be, sleeping in the bed with me and Jessica, which I find awkward. No, I know you say that I'm not going to notice, but you're going to be in the bed. But I think more so than anything, I actually have a part of me that I don't necessarily want to share yet. I mean, you can hear me on Sex Nerd Sandra's show. I walked away from that show thinking like, oh boy, now there's more of me out there. I don't know if I needed people to know I have sensitive nipples. Was that important that they know that? But that was the context of the show. So I'm still got a few things that you don't know about. But I think in the bigger picture, I was frightened of doing a full feature-length documentary because at that time, I didn't know how it was going to end. And generally, documentarians aren't going to give you final say. So it could have gone either way. There's an underdog story associated with me because I tend to associate it with me because it is true. But I don't know when I'm going to fuck it up. But please, I encourage you to go watch Day of the Life if you like me. And also I encourage you to come to my stand-up shows if you like what I do, because there's a difference between hearing me say this to you personally in this private moment we're having right now and for you to be sitting in a room full of like-minded people enjoying the crafted stand-up material. Yeah, I may share. Yeah, look, I've only got so big a life, so obviously I talk about things in both places, but there's a big difference in how they're presented, and that's the process, and that's why I don't think it's overexposure yet. I am running out of life, though. I need to do something. I need to, I don't know, mountain climb, bungee jump, something. Maybe take in a foster child. Wait, my girlfriend just moved in. All right, we're good. There's going to be new material. I gotta tell you, the music on the show today... What, are you kidding me? Hello?
Hi.
Why are you calling on this phone?
I call your cell phone. What do you got?
I'm recording, baby.
I'm sorry.
Are you coming home?
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. I just got your text message.
Okay, I gotta go get cat food, and we gotta pick up that dry cleaning. But I'll go do that, and you go do what you gotta do. I'll talk to you in a little while.
Okay, because I was going to go return my stuff.
Okay, all right, do that. I love you. Bye.
Love you too.
Okay, baby.
I love you.
I love you too. Bye. All right, let's do this again. The music on the show today is by The Farthest Forests. Go download their music for free at thefarthestforests.com. And if you live in New England, see them live at the Music Hall in Portsmouth, New Hampshire on April 21st. That's thefarthestforests.com. What is this, a tongue twister? All right. Okay. That's that. Okay, let me dip my hands into the stamps.com mailbag. I asked you to write me handwritten letters, and I am getting handwritten letters, and they're so much more personal to see people's handwriting and to see the way that people write when they write on pieces of paper, old school. This one's from Larry. It's a long letter, but I can read this first part because it almost seems as if he's doing my job for me. Hey, Mark, with a K. Come on, Larry. Hey, Mark, stamps.com is the best effing deal in the world if you need to send mail. I'm sorry I don't cuss during the plugs because I can't say whatever I want on my podcast, but this particular sponsor would rather not I leave the F word out of the plug. I use it for my eBay and Amazon shipping, and I have a ton of shipping. I used to have to go to the post office and wait on long lines and listen to disgruntled customers who potentially could go postal. I live in Bed-Stuy, so some folk were packing weapons. Can you imagine what it was like when I got to the head of the line and the people behind me saw that I had 15 packages that needed to be sent? They were like, WTF. I'm saying it that way because I'm not, you get it. Now, I'm home listening to WTF while I'm doing my own postage and being my own mailman. If I'm going to go postal, there's no one else to kill but myself. That's the quote that Stamps.com should use for their website. Love the show. It's inspirational, which I hate saying, and I hate writing it. I feel like such a girl writing this letter in longhand, but you asked for it. Thank you, Larry. That was a lovely piece of writing, and I would like to say you can access all the services of a post office right from your desk. Buy and print official U.S. postage using your own computer and printer. Print stamps and shipping labels for any letter or package the instant you need it. Then the mailman will pick it up. You'll never have to go to the post office again. And I do this. Larry does it. It seems like people are doing it. It's Stamps.com. Use my promo code WTF for a no-risk trial plus a $110 bonus offer, including a digital scale and $55 of free postage. All right? That's Stamps.com. Don't wait. Go to Stamps.com before you do anything else. Click on the radio microphone at the top of the homepage and type in WTF. That's Stamps.com. Enter WTF. Dr. Katz? Yeah.
That is, to be able to have that there, that is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, people are finding that stuff again. You know, I mean, that's a long time ago. And I think I'm on 2 of them. And now people, like, they're available again. That's the weirdest thing, is when people come over to you and go, I just heard you on Dr. Katz. I'm like, were you time traveling?
I love it.
Did you watch it when you were a kid?
Yeah, I did. That's when I was kind of deciding I liked comedy.
Really?
Yeah, but it was so gentle. I mean, that's when Comedy Central could have, like, a gentle thing like that on.
That's a good point, though, that there was a time where Comedy Central was not all about aggression, profanity, shocking. Yeah, they don't do that.
Well, that tone of a show, I don't think you would see.
So what? How old were you then when you watched Dr. Katz?
Probably 13.
Really? Mm-hmm. And that was part of your life? Comedy Central was?
Yeah, it was that and the X-Files.
Oh, really?
That was around, like,
those were the 2 worlds you were in?
Yeah, and I used to make my mom watch. Well, I talk about this, like, there was a time when Comedy Central was like, you'd be like, what is this? Look, it's just like Porky's or weird old SNL compilation shows.
Yep.
So this was original programming that was good.
So you grew up in where?
I grew up in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Where? Like where'd you go to school?
I went to BB&N, a private school.
Spark Street.
Yeah. How did you know that?
Dude, I spent a lot of time there. My cousin, my dad's first cousin, who I loved, they literally lived next door to that school. You know that gray house on the corner of Sparks and what is it, Huron?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That house.
Must be nice. That's a really nice neighborhood.
Yeah, he was a teacher, but I don't know, they had the house forever, and I used to stay in the basement at that house. It was
So nice.
right next to that school. Mm-hmm. Where'd you grow up in Cambridge? Like what area?
Fresh Pond Parkway. Like not the West Cambridge, Nicey area. My parents moved when I was 18 to Weston, outside of, which is
Weston, Mass.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time running around there.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I went to college at BU. I was there
Okay.
for 5 years undergrad. Then I came out here and got all, fucked up on drugs at the Comedy Store. And then I went back and started my comedy career there at Catch a Rising Star in
Right.
Harvard Square. So I know that place.
Yeah.
I worked at the Coffee Connection. Do you remember? In the garage?
Cafe A, where I used to get pizza there.
Oh, right,
And now
right.
there's like a faux pasteur and
Yeah.
yeah, I got my ears pierced there.
Really? At the
Yeah.
garage?
Yep.
Newberry Comics was there?
Yeah, that's like kind of where Bad Kids went.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there in the pit. That's like where you would go. And then
Oh, right.
you go to
Where-
the Army Navy surplus and buy pants and stuff, yeah.
Yeah. They're the pit, you mean that triangle where all the action was outside?
Yeah, where you could buy weed is what we heard.
And smoke what you heard. You were a
Yeah.
good kid.
Yeah, of course I was a good kid. What do you think?
You were never tempted to cross over into the bad world?
No.
At prep school? There were no bad kids?
No, they were bad kids.
Uh-huh.
They were bad kids, yeah.
Yeah.
They were having sex at 13 and stuff like that. That wasn't, obviously those aren't kids I knew. Except like in art classes, I would take art classes with them maybe.
And there was ever any fascination with, like, those kids?
Yeah, of course there was fascination, but I wasn't friends with them. I was normal. I mean, I wished I could be like that.
You're saying this like it was just last year. The intensity of your...
Also, my voice sounds like I'm 12 years old too.
You were
Maybe
like,
that's why.
don't associate me with them. They were not my friends.
Well, I remember there was kids that were bad because they would want to like dine and dash at the Chili's in Harvard Square.
Oh, that's bad.
We would go on Friday nights, and they would be like, "We should dine and dash." And I was like, "I can't. That's too much. I can't do that. It's too stressful a situation."
Oh, that was your fear of breaking the law. Was it's just too much anxiety?
Yeah, bad kids. Yeah, exactly.
How do you guys live with yourselves with that stress?
No, it was never moral. But it was they did that, or they were having sex. That's how you knew a kid was bad.
You didn't even make out in junior high?
No.
Wow. When
Yeah.
did that happen for you?
God, this is embarrassing.
No, I haven't. Mine. I was late.
Making out was end of high school, college.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, where do you get this discipline or this fear that?
I didn't want that. I didn't want that to be the case. That just was because when you're like a chubby Indian 13-year-old, it's not like there's a line out the door to make out with you. So I would have loved to. I mean, if you'd asked a 13-year-old version of me, I would have wanted to lose my virginity at like 9 or something. Like I just wanted, but this wasn't an option.
So you were socially awkward?
I wasn't. I think I was actually socially fine. I was always just like there was like a one really friendly, chubby, creative kid. Like that's what I
Right.
was like. So it wasn't. I don't think I was all that socially awkward. I just wasn't like so the kind of girl you wanted to smooch or something like that.
And when, like, your parents are first generation, they were born in India?
Yeah, born in India, met in Africa, and then moved to Cambridge.
Met in Africa? Mm-hmm. Where in Africa?
In Nigeria.
How did that work out?
They both moved to Africa for work. My mom is an OBGYN. She's a doctor, and she was working at the hospital that my dad, who's an architect, was like building a wing for. And so I think if you like identify another Indian person, they're from totally different parts of India. So,
Yeah.
So they just spoke English to each other.
Yeah.
And so they met there, and they like kind of fell in love and got married, and then moved to the US.
A romantic Nigerian meeting.
Is it?
It kind of is.
I think it's very like international. I like
Yeah.
that story.
Are you
really about it.
Are you that way? I mean,
No, I hate leaving the continental United States.
do you still have family in India?
Yes, a lot of family in India.
So you go?
No, I haven't been back there since I was 14.
14 though, so you went. You did the one
Yes.
the one trip?
Yeah.
We have to go see your aunt and
My grandparents and stuff like that.
Really? They're all there.
Yeah, my mom's side of the family is all here, but my dad's side of the family is all still in South India.
And what was the religious background?
Hindu.
Really? I find this fascinating.
Really?
Because I have an at times almost obsessive thing about India.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all based on my my love of the food.
Okay. You love Indian food.
I love Indian food, but I also love Ganesh. I like the elephant. Mm-hmm. I have a few Ganeshes around. Okay. I was sort of obsessed with Ganesh, but I don't, it's not founded, like I never was obsessed to the point where it's like I have to learn more. I just like the colors. Mm-hmm. I like the food. I can generally, in a sort of inverted racism way, say I like the people, but it's all based on my experience.
Well, can I ask you a question? Mm-hmm. Are you Jewish?
Yes.
Okay. I have found that Jewish guys really appreciate like Indian stuff in a way that I've always liked. Uh-huh. And I thought that was, I think it's cool.
Really? And that's something you've definitely seen?
No, totally. I think that there's like a, well, you know that saying that like Indians are the new Jews?
I haven't heard that, but I will from here forward say that.
Okay. Good. I want you to start telling that to everyone you meet. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of similarities kind of growing up. So I've always, for whatever reason, and obviously because I'm a comedy writer, I meet a lot of Jewish guys. Yeah. But Jewish guys seem to just love like Indian food. Like I've always felt that, been really interested in the culture, and Hinduism and Judaism are compatible. We both have a common hatred for Muslims. Like it's like there's a good, do you know what I mean? Like we're a good match.
But it's also compatible in the sense that there's this weird kind of centuries old tradition that may be sort of, weird and not quite knowable when you're younger, but you still are part of it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Is that the way you grew up? I mean, I don't know what a religious service in Hindi is, but.
No, I don't either. I mean, because I grew up just speaking English, like a lot of my other Indian friends whose parents, they spoke another language too, but no, and I mean, for religious stuff, I mean, my brother and I knew that we were Hindu, but we didn't do a lot of, like, we didn't go to like, there's not like, Hebrew school or whatever on Sundays or church.
And Hindu's the blue guy. No, that's Krishna.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Are they the same? Are we in the same ballpark?
I know so little about my religion. I'm sorry.
But
I didn't know that this is what it was going to be about. No, I would have brushed up a little bit more.
No, but you know who Ganesh is, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Of course, and he's an elephant head guy.
Yeah, that's like Hinduism 101. Of course I know who, like, you can have a very cursory understanding of Hinduism and know who Ganesh is.
Right.
The Simpsons, like, talks about Ganesh.
Okay,
yeah.
all right. So that's where, back to the watching TV and watching comedy. No, I'm just sort of fascinated with it. Did you eat at Old Calcutta? Old Calcutta on Mass Ave in Central Square? Old Calcutta?
No.
Down towards the end?
If we were going to go out, we didn't usually go for Indian food.
Does your mom cook really good Indian food?
Yeah, but she has like 6 recipes.
Yeah.
And she's a doctor, so she's pretty busy.
Right.
So I love my mom's cooking, but I know that it's not like it's not the way that a lot of other Indian moms cook. So,
yeah.
But I like it. So.
Like, what's the favorite dish?
She makes samosas from scratch, which is that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
But she does it in it's like only for your birthday, and only even then it's like the 16th birthday or like a 21st, like only like a big deal birthday.
That's samosa day?
Yeah. And you like hear about it for months after about how she like made the samosas. So, but it's worth it. They're awesome.
I know how to do that is what she's saying. Yeah, I can do that. I have that skill set.
And then, she makes like, goat curry, which I love. I love goat meat.
It's good.
It is good.
It's like pungent lamb.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And it stays with you. You sweat goat when you eat.
Do. Yeah. So we have that like once in a while. So she has like 4 recipes.
Uh-huh. So where did you end up really starting to do comedy? I mean, how did that evolve? I mean, you're obviously you had a nice life. You had good parents.
Yeah.
You grew up not really wanting for anything, and you chose this career path. When did that first hit you where it's like, I'm going to do comedy things? What was it?
I was always a comedy nerd. Like I was always into Kids in the Hall. I would watch things like Dr. Katz, but like much more than like other friends who also like knew the shows. Like I needed to know who was in the credits, like that kind of thing.
Really?
Where like I'd watch like SNL and I'd
right.
like actually care about who was on the writing staff.
Really?
Just because I wanted to like see what they were like, or like and this is before like internet.
Right.
So it was a very mysterious world that it like isn't right now.
Did you write things down and
Oh yeah. I mean, I used to transcribe like sketches on Saturday Night Live that I like loved. By the way, I didn't have like good comedy taste, but I loved comedy. Like I took everything in.
You transcribe sketches?
Yeah, like I would transcribe like a Gap Girl sketch on Saturday Night Live.
Really?
Just to see what the structure was and like how many lines each person had and that kind of thing.
And what age were you?
I mean, I started watching SNL, like, that was even younger. That was maybe, like, 9 or 10.
Do you remember what the cast was or who the players were or, like, which ones first made an impression on you?
Yeah, Dana Carvey was a huge influence on me, like, in terms of loving comedy. Because he was one of those SNL guys who, like, I loved, my parents loved. His characters were just very, like, simple with, like, a high premise. And I loved him. Also, I had a crush on Dana Carvey. Like, I thought he was gorgeous.
Have you met him since?
No, never.
Do you want to?
Yeah, I'd love to meet Dana Carvey. He's awesome.
And, okay, so what was the first active engagement with, like, doing something comedic?
I think probably wasn't until really college.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I started writing sketches and would write these short plays and things like that.
And were you part of a sketch troupe?
Oh, it wasn't, yes, I was in an improv troupe, but I wasn't in a sketch troupe.
In college?
Yeah.
Where'd you go to college?
Dartmouth.
Fancy. It is fancy, right?
I like moderately fancy. It's like in the middle of nowhere.
Isolated fancy.
Isolated fancy, yes.
Off the grid fancy. It's Ivy League school, right? Mm-hmm. That's fancy. Well, what were you majoring in?
I was a classics major.
Which means?
Latin.
Really?
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
I'd just taken Latin since I was in 7th grade.
So you just thought that was the next step?
Kind of. I mean, I was like a Latin whiz at my high school. Like, that was my big thing, as I was good at Latin.
Can you still do it?
Do it?
Latin.
Translate it?
Yeah.
I feel like your persona in this is like, you're fancy, so I won't even say translate. I'll say, do you do Latin? You knew that the word is translate.
Well, no, I got in trouble once because I had said, I'd asked somebody if they spoke Latin because I had another guest who, I think it might have even been Chris Hardwick.
Okay.
And then someone's like, no one speaks Latin, but they do in like Catholic.
Ancient Rome.
Right. In ancient Rome and Catholic services.
You're right.
I mean, it's still used.
Absolutely.
So someone made me feel like an idiot. So instead of say speak Latin, I got jumbled and I just went with do one way or the other.
Yeah.
Like I thought that would cover speaking and translating.
I shouldn't have picked any of that. That was dumb. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's all right. I can handle it.
I can translate like coins and things like that. In buildings, they have lots of Latin shows up in the weirdest places. So,
like the first impulse I had in that moment was like, I'm getting a coin, but I didn't do that. But you seem like such a sort of like career-minded person now around what you do.
Really? What does that mean?
I mean that like they're like when people I knew when they started comedy. Like I think when you were growing up and once you started to get involved with show business, that, and I'm projecting this, that it became clear that it was possible. That there was a series of steps that you could maybe take to get what you wanted.
But you didn't feel that way?
No. I'm there's no way to judge. I mean, I just wanted to be a stand-up comedian. It was very limited and it was based on the fact that I didn't seem to have to do much.
Okay.
You know what I mean? If I could just figure out how to be funny in front of a microphone, that it'd work out. But like I've become sort of, fascinated and less judgmental of younger people in the industry who somehow or another at a younger age realize like, wow, there are these steps and there's, if I work on this and I do these sketches and I'm projecting a whole life onto you, but you did improv in college. Were your parents like, no, you must stay with Latin?
No, I'm lucky. I have my parents. They loved me doing theater and stuff like that. They
really?
loved it. Yeah. They, they didn't know that. They didn't come from that world at all, but they really appreciated it. I mean, my parents, I grew up where my parents liked Seinfeld more than me. Do you know, they would watch Dr. Katz and stuff with me, and they really love comedy. And so I think they were excited about it. And then when I could make a living doing it, that was nice for them. So
you have memories of that? They really, they were comedy fans.
Totally. Yeah. My mom is an incredibly funny person, and Curb Your Enthusiasm, she loves comedy. She watches so much comedy now too.
So was there a point where they were afraid or frightened of your desire to get into it? Because I know most parents, mine included, are like, that seems crazy. I mean, how does anyone make a living at that? It seems like a long shot. I'm
sure they did. And it does probably seem like a long shot, but they always my parents just think I'm perfect. I'm like Kate Middleton to my parents. I could do nothing wrong. And so I had tough parents. I was scared of them, really scared of them until I was 15 or 16, but they were so supportive of me. They just thought I could do anything. So
tough in what way?
when I said I was scared of my parents, like I was scared of them. They weren't like my pals, growing up. I didn't have one of these houses where, people, you're like, have a glass of wine to like the 16-year-old at dinner, you know. My parents told me, I remember my mom told me, she's like, I don't want you to be having sex until you go to college. Like, these are things that were like expectations.
Well, that was good. Not married, but college.
Yeah, of course. I was like, no problem. That's not going to be an issue here. It's kind of flattering, Mom, that you think that. But and I had to do like my homework, and I couldn't go out on school nights and things like that. But, I like structure. So for me, I've always liked it, even now. So I didn't mind that.
You like structure.
Yeah.
Because then you know where you're going and what you're doing.
The worst thing to me would be like to go on like those sandals commercials for vacations where you're supposed to just like lay on a beach with some hot guy or something like that and look at the water. That's the worst thing to me. I don't like it. That seems so boring.
So do you go on vacation?
I like it. Theoretically, I like it. I went to Buenos Aires 2 years ago, and I thought that was an amazing trip. I had a great time, and there's a lot of history there. But like, I could do that for like a long weekend, and then by Monday night, I would want to go back to work.
Let's get back to life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and enough of this.
Yeah.
When you travel, do you do like, I got to know the history of this place. I got to find out.
That's usually the most interesting thing for me. I love like true crime. So when I went to Buenos Aires, the thing that was most interesting to me was like the disappearings. Like I wanted to see like the political stuff, and I took like a bus tour. Like I wasn't
the disappearings bus tour.
The disappearings bus tour. Yeah, they kind of actually we like drove around all the main places where different people had been kidnapped, and like, that's an amazing city. But I wasn't interested in like the tango as much, like that wasn't. Or
like the party, like, it's in Buenos Aires, a big party area.
Interesting. It could be. I didn't like.
I'm thinking of Rio.
Rio
seems like just an immoral, hellhole.
Yeah.
Of debauchery. My brother lived in Buenos Aires, really, and isn't there sort of a weird kind of like renegade Nazis after World War II went to Buenos Aires?
Yeah, no, so this is speaking of true. All I'd want to do, Buenos Aires, Bolivia.
Right.
Just, to me, the idea, like when I was walking down the street, I was like, any 90-year-old man that I see right now could have been in Buchenwald, like, doing orders. That is incredibly interesting to me.
The walking down the street and going, I wonder if he was the dentist.
Yeah.
Right.
The Nazi hunter.
Yeah. Simon Wiesenthal. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He was largely, I was obsessed with him for a while. He was, unfortunately, I think, kind of discredited later in his life.
Was he? I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
For what? For making up Nazis?
Exaggerating. Which, by the way, if you were hunting Nazis, wouldn't you embellish a little bit? I would.
Right. Yeah, what's your fascination with, do you have a sort of...
BJ Novak, who you know, has said about me that I'm like obsessed with justice. And I think that's really true. And I think that, the thing about Nazi hunters is that, that's like obsessed with justice writ large. That's just like, and it's also very dramatic and, continent hopping and things. Like I find it interesting.
So if you're obsessed with justice, is there a sense on a daily basis that things aren't fair? Do you fight some sort of good fight in your mind?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
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 Like, do you get, like, when political things like Occupy Wall Street or any of this stuff, does that resonate?
Oh, God. Okay, so now, like, it should.
Yeah.
If I was a better person, more politically minded person, it would.
Right.
But I'm talking more about, like, why parking meters don't accept pennies. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? You give us pennies.
Right.
The government, but they won't accept them because they also hate them. Like, that to me, like, I hate that. But, so just the tiny things and the historical things, but in any kind of like...
And the practical sort of fighting the powers that are unjust in society is like, I gotta work.
I know. It's exhausting. It's bad. That's bad. That's
I'm the same way. It's not, I don't think that, like, I like to say I'm not apathetic, I'm inactive. Mm-hmm. And, but okay, well, tell me about this true crime thing, because, I'm dating a woman who's fairly obsessed with it.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Just in terms of what, like, does she love reading true crime, or
she reads the blogs,
okay,
murder blogs. Mm-hmm. She watches the murder shows,
okay,
the crime shows.
So, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
When I read that, I get very scared. I'm not like deadened to it. I'm very scared by it. Has she ever thought you were trying to kill her or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
I think she likes the unfolding. Like she's involved in reading blogs of cases that are still kind of trying to be solved.
Okay.
And, you know, she likes sort of the process of how they're going about trying to find the murderer and what the murderer did and how to protect herself from, you know, possibilities, you know.
Have you seen The Staircase?
No.
Oh.
Why?
She'd love it. It's like a 9-part documentary about a couple and a woman like fell down a staircase and died, but it was unclear. There's so much blood at the scene of the crime. They weren't sure if the husband had actually been the one who murdered, and it unfolds, and there's so many twists and turns. I really recommend it.
And it's true?
Oh yeah, it's true. Happened in North Carolina.
Is there closure?
Yeah, yes. But the what you learn over the course of the documentary about each of them is so unbelievable. Great holiday present.
Oh, really?
Yeah, The Staircase documentary.
I'm going to write it down.
Gotta get it.
Really?
She likes true crime? Oh my God, this is it.
And outside of justice, what do you think is, because it seems like that's more than just justice. Do you like the menace and the morbidity and the, like, you know, finding out about people and what they're capable of?
You mean in just true crime and stuff?
Yeah.
Well, I go to truetv.com sometimes to read about crimes because, well, one thing that's very scary to me is that if something is too grisly and too disturbing, you simply won't hear about it, which is, to me, the worst. Like if there's in 9/11 photographs, like when people were jumping out of the building.
Right.
You didn't see it because it was considered too disturbing. And there's certain crimes that have been committed, like the Wichita massacre and things like that, where you don't hear about it because it's too disturbing. But that's, to me, the wrong way to think of it. You should be hearing about just the worst ones. I live alone. I'm a single woman living in West Hollywood alone. I feel like I should constantly hear about weird break-ins and, like, you know, home invasion situations because I've never set my alarm on. My doors are always unlocked. So,
now, those are two things you seem like you have some control over.
Yes. I did make it sound like that just happened to me. Like I can't.
Right. There's nothing I can do to lock my
Nothing,
door.
no.
And the alarm, I don't know what it does.
Yeah. No, but I do like it because it's grisly. No, but in our writer's room too, I'll like go on people. That's been a fixation of mine for a long time, is like true crime.
Yeah, I like even just last night we were walking back from a party and she was tired of her heels and she took her shoes off and was walking down the street and she goes, "This makes me nervous." And I'm like, "Why?" And she's like, "'Cause that girl that got kidnapped and disappeared, she didn't have shoes on." And I'm like, "Well, I'm here and we're in Los Feliz." I don't think
Which girl? JC Dugard?
the one at the college campus. I think.
Yeah.
You know which one that is?
I think so.
She got picked up by a truck, and there's all these people who are friends, and they don't know what happened to her. I think it was like in Wisconsin or somewhere, maybe Madison.
Oh, yeah. This is the one who's like on Twitter, right? Like all the time they're tweeting about it.
About her sister. Please help. Yeah.
God, so sad. It was her boyfriend, though. It seemed very clear.
But how have they not solved that? See, that's the other thing that scares me about that shit is that the sad thing about police shows and procedural shows and all the fiction is that there's closure. Like it's got to be like 80% of the time.
Yeah.
They don't figure it out.
I thought the statistic was the other way around. That 80% of the time you do figure it out.
Okay, I just winged the statistics, but there's a big chunk that are unsolved. Don't you like the cold crime stuff? I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't watch it, but the idea that they can find a tooth now and track it down.
That's awesome.
So when did you move to Hollywood?
2004.
And was that did you come on a deal or were you completely just like...
Did I come on a deal? No. I was doing an off Broadway play here called Matt and Ben, which I wrote and was in. And I did that play here for, I think, like a couple months. And then Greg Daniels, who hired me in the office, he saw that.
And that was it? That changed the game?
That changed the game.
Where did that play start and how did it end up in L.A.?
I wrote the play in New York with my best friend. And we were, she's my best friend from college, and she's still my best friend. And we wrote it the year I graduated college. She's a year older than me. Yeah. And, the play's about Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. Uh-huh. And I play Ben Affleck and she's Matt Damon. And it's an hour-long, really absurd comedy play where she's Matt Damon and I'm Ben Affleck, and And where did you put it up in New York? Were you involved with UCB or anything like that? No, I wasn't. No, it was at the Fringe Festival. Uh-huh. We submitted to the Fringe. We saved up our money and submitted it to Fringe Festival, and then we did it there. And after Fringe Festival, we won Best Play there, which helped us get to do a show at PS 122. I've done the shows there. It's nice. Big room. Yeah, it's great. And so we did it there for a while, and that's when it started getting like attention. But so it was just a spontaneous thing. You didn't come out here like, a manager said you should do it. You were just like, let's do it. Yeah, I mean, the producers for the show were like put it up and got us. We subletted a place from, whatever. And we just, that was it.
And it was just that organic. You were not connected in any way, and it just happened.
Connected anyway, meaning like
there was not a huge amount of buzz that drove you out here, and people saying like, oh, you've got to, this is it.
Okay. So I, when it was at PS 122, that is when like it was like Rolling Stone and like different magazines were like writing about it. So that's what.
So you did get a little heat.
That's what kind of made them feel like it might do well in LA.
And what was your, like, when you did the show? I mean, because Greg Daniels is a big guy, and he's just, he's a smart guy, and he saw something in you. But when you did the show, what did you have any sort of idea where it would go or where it would head, or it was just this funny thing that grew out of a college kind of like, this is funny?
We didn't, I mean, I think we both knew, like, this couldn't be like a show. Like, I'm not going to play Ben Affleck professionally. And so we just thought, I don't know, this is a good entree to maybe wanting to pay us to write something else that was more. So right. So you
there was part of you that was like, I want to have a career as a writer.
Oh yeah, I mean I knew that since I was like 10 that I wanted to write.
Since you were transcribing SNL scripts.
Yeah.
And the acting thing was secondary, really?
Yes.
And when did you figure out that you were funny?
Like when in my life did I figure out?
Well, I mean, like when you were doing sketch and stuff. I mean, like, was there? Were you afraid to go on stage? I mean, when did that start happening? Where you were performing a lot?
Well, live performance and like doing the show are, as you know, like incredibly different things. Like when I started doing stand up, like 25.
You did straight stand up?
Yeah.
Really? Mm-hmm. Where'd you start that?
I would do it at. Well, I saw BJ, who I met on The Office. I would like go see him do stand up around town, different like
here.
Yeah, he would even do like open mics at like places in like coffee shops in like the Valley.
No, I remember seeing him at those. Yeah.
And so I started signing up to do open mics, and because I didn't like have a lot of friends, I didn't have a lot to do here because my friend moved back to New York, and I only had my friends from The Office who weren't really my friends yet even.
So you were already doing The Office when you started doing stand up.
Yeah.
But you did sketch in college.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So BJ kind of coaxed you into it, or like
he didn't discourage me or encourage me. I just went to go see him, and I remember one night I saw him perform. God, it was like just before the UCB. It's where Scott and BJ used to do Comedy Death Ray. I forget what that venue is called.
M-Bar?
M-Bar.
Yeah.
And I think it was Louis C.K. and was it Bob Odenkirk, where they're doing like a show, they were doing like stand up together.
Really?
Yeah, for like 7 minutes, 10 minutes, and it was the coolest. I couldn't believe how cool it was.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really drawn to that. I mean, one of the reasons why I thought he's so great, or even BJ, is that their style of comedy is so different than mine. I mean, like that's just like it shows so much restraint as comedy, and I think that's so impressive. Well,
he's like BJ. Like when I first met him, it was very hard for me to decipher who he was or what his personality was.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that there was an incredible will and focus on joke writing.
Yeah.
And it was pretty amazing that like he could get the response that he was getting, and I had no clue of where it was coming from.
Remember what it was like? I mean, that when you're a very open person the way I am, and
right.
almost to a fault sometimes, I think, and you're very generous with the details about your life, when you see something like that, and also if you just know him personally, he's just so like, you could know him, you could met him 10 times and not know what he's really like. I mean, I know him like, extremely well, and he's a very warm, gentle, sweet person, but like, I think that's so cool. I mean, that's like the definition of cool to me. But then there's other people like Chris Rock or Louis C.K. where you know so much about their life and their observations, but they're completely letting you into their world, which is also so admirable.
So how was your first stand-up experiences?
Like mortifying, bad. I mean, ultimately, I mean, this is a terrible reason to ever be inspired, but I think more often than not, I am inspired by this. You see stand up and it's so bad that you're like, why? Please let me do this. I mean, that's not a very pure way to go about it. I know that's
spite. You're right. Yeah.
And at that point, I'd go to see stand up and I was like, it'd be like a girl playing like a ukulele with like no jokes, no point of view. And I was like, what? This is like considered the best person, the best woman comedian or whatever it is.
Right.
And obviously I wasn't seeing like the people that were really great, like Sarah and
Right.
Tig and all those people. But the people that were like the exciting up and comers just made me so angry. Or they would just do this like cathartic, like very like X-rated stuff about how they'd been raped and you're supposed to like laugh about that or something. And I was like, this is terrible. This is awful and embarrassing. I should be doing this.
Really? So you have, it's interesting you use the word X-rated. I like that. It's sort of nostalgic in a way.
Yeah.
And do you find that, some, like, especially female comedians who clearly have a certain investment in shocking, using, rape and child abuse and whatnot as launching points for humor. Do you have an issue with that?
I don't feel like it's certainly it's like not my cup of tea, but I do think, and this is not just for female comedians, it's for all comedians. It's like, like the power of shock.
Sure.
It's like an amazing thing.
Yeah.
But it is so anybody can do it. Like any person can do it. You don't have to be like a skilled person.
Right.
You don't have to be like an artist to shock anybody.
Right.
And so when you make jokes about abortion or you even say the word abortion, you get people's attention in a way that I just am like, that's any person can do that. And so I don't have a real political issue with it. I just think it's like just not kind of my cup of tea.
Cheap.
Yeah.
Easy.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, because obviously you like blue comedy. I mean, you like Louis.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Is
ways.
he considered like blue, would you say?
No. I mean, I'm saying when a lot of your jokes will end in masturbation or
Yeah.
some form of.
Yes.
If someone's coming on somebody, I would say that there's blue is a fine.
Yes.
He's a great all around comic, but he's a dirty boy.
Yeah.
So it's not dirty that bothers you. It's cheap laughs based on, like, the thing that you find appealing about BJ is that the discipline of creating jokes and performing, in a way that requires some thought and some craft.
Right, like you could see one of BJ's acting, you never know that if his heart had ever been broken or if he ever had any like issue or hang up. Like
that bothers me because I gravitate towards people who can't hide themselves. And like I've talked to BJ, I've had him on a live show. And I always found him like he's clearly, very focused and he's got a lot of ambition and he works hard, but I would watch him do stand up and I'd be like, who is that kid? I get that he writes, but like, what's he been through?
But isn't that the great thing? There's like lots of different ways to be funny.
No, I like him. It wasn't easy for me to like him. It took a while.
No, I get that too.
And what kind of jokes were you talking about when you did your stuff? Were you just blasting away at your personal life, or did you write jokes?
Oh yeah, no, I definitely wrote jokes. I mean, especially since I'd come from these like seeing comedy like largely like jokeless sets that were based on the fact that you were adorable. Like that was sort of what I was responding to is like when I would see that. So I definitely wrote jokes, but I think that, and I moved with the letter. Like I was going to colleges. I was like touring and doing 45-minute sets and like spending the weekends at like all these random towns across the country. And I was doing it, like for real doing it. But I found that, I didn't have the time that you need. You really do need so much time to go up and find out the thing that you have the most to say about, like I wasn't sure.
So you got an opportunity because of your visibility on The Office to sell some tickets.
Well, no, and also because I was funny. Like I
think you're funny,
but
I'm just responding to like you didn't feel like you had gone as far as you could go with stand up.
No, I didn't. And if in order to do it more, I would have to spend more time.
And did you tour alone? Did you have an opening act? Did you tour with BJ? How did it work?
No, I toured alone. I did a couple shows with Craig Robinson, but I think that was like before he was on The Office. And he just plays the piano and he sings these songs. He's so funny. I mean, he kills in colleges.
He's so funny.
Yeah,
I saw him the other night. He just showed up somewhere where I did some guy's show in Santa Monica. And I just all of a sudden Craig Robinson's in the back of the room.
Yeah.
So how did it evolve when you first got the gig on The Office? You were just cast, or was the deal originally to write and perform, or how did that?
It was originally to write, and then I started acting in the second episode.
Oh, so it was. Oh, really?
Greg had put us on writer-performer contracts. So that first season, all six of us ended up kind of being on camera in one form or the other.
So you're sort of like, it was kind of like being in the reserves? Like you knew you had a contract that would enable you to perform, but you didn't know when you would be called to duty?
Yeah, it wasn't until like he decided to put me in the show that I said, okay, well, we'll have to figure out some, and he's like, it's actually already in your contract. Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
How long did it take for you to sort of integrate? Because it's an ensemble show, obviously. So how long did it take for you to feel confident? I mean, when you first started performing? I mean, what was that? What were your fears?
My first scene I ever did in the office is I had to slap Steve Carell. That was like the entire scene. So that was I was incredibly nervous then. It took a while. It took like maybe two years for me to really feel like I felt like comfortable holding my own.
Is it still a blast?
Yeah, it's still fun. I mean, like anything else, like as I've done the show more and I've become more like senior, everything just becomes more fun when you like feel more powerful.
Yeah.
So that's yeah.
And is there any fear that in yourself, like when Carell was leaving and things were changing, is there ever fear that it'll get stale or that you're not going to be excited about it? No, I mean, I don't feel that way. No. I know other people do. Yeah, for sure. And I know plenty of magazine articles think that or whatever, but I, loved Steve. Steve was so great. So fucking funny.
So funny. And like, but the rest of the people that are still in the cast is like, if you said to a network, hey, I want to do a show with like John Krasinski, Rainn Wilson, Ed Helms, Craig Robinson, whoever else, they would be like, that sounds like the best show in the world. So if I think about the show that way, in terms of like, guys, if we were just a pilot, how fucking awesome would that show be? And that sort of makes me feel excited about it.
And how many episodes have you written on your own?
23.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Thanks.
And how does that work? Since I've never been a television writer. Now,
is that something you really want to know, how a TV show was written? That's like something that you think is interesting? No, because for myself, it's when I've written a script before for me. Okay.
And the job of being a writer, I'm interested in it though, because literally there's part of me that just learned that when you're a writer on the show, that you are sort of given, you're going to write this episode. And then everybody sort of takes a crack at it. Is that generally how it works? Like you write the episode, and then if it requires sort of group mind, it goes up on a screen in a room, and you go through it, and people give suggestions for jokes and things. Yeah, that's interesting to me.
Yeah?
It's not my life.
Yeah.
When you get an episode, is there a moment where you're like, oh, fuck?
Yeah, no, I mean, so there's, 22 episodes a year, and Paul Lieberstein has to get through them. And if you show an attachment or if you've pitched a lot of good jokes for like an episode, oftentimes you kind of know that he's going to assign it to you. But,
and is that like a dread thing, or are you excited about it?
Sometimes you're like, God, I hope I get assigned that up. It's like, I love writing the Christmas episodes, and I've written those for the past couple of years, and that's the one I want.
So a lot of times the general pitch of the show is, so-and-so gets this. The plot points are already kind of laid out.
Yeah, it's like we'll have a bulletin board that we've put cards up on, and once it's carded, which means that you have like the first act, second act, third act, then that's the point where Paul has to tell someone to go do an outline, which is like the extended version of that.
Right.
And so at that point, once you're doing the outline, you pretty much know that you're going to write the episode.
And because you're on, you've been in the cast for so long and you've been around these people, you're writing for very defined characters.
Yes. Yeah.
Like when you write, do you, cause I'm have a book deal and I'm writing a book.
Oh, yeah?
And you just wrote a book.
Yeah.
Is everyone hanging out without me? Is that a real fear?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I hate it. But there's a lot of dread involved in my process. I don't find a lot of joy. And the wrestling with a script or anything else is like, and it really, when it starts to break through, it's exciting. But I think given the opportunity, I would not do it.
Not write the book.
Any of it.
Can I say something? Because I've now written scripts and I've written, obviously I wrote my book, is that the book was the most daunting thing I've ever had to do. Because a script is like a script for a TV show.
It's a puzzle.
It's a puzzle. It's 32 pages long.
Right.
You can read that in a night. In fact, you can read 5 of them in a night. You'll be fine. My book, when I'd like go back and be looking for my book, I was like, I can't. Fuck. I'm not gonna be able to like get through this tonight and like look at it as a whole. So you always have a certain amount of uncertainty.
Right.
And so, I mean, luckily my book is made up of smaller pieces, so I could kind of tackle those. But
right.
I didn't even have like Microsoft Word on my computer because I just use our
Final Draft.
Yeah, the script writing program.
Yeah.
So I had to like buy Microsoft Word and then install that on my computer. It was like expensive, and then sat there in front of like the blank page, which was.
But you had the discipline in place. You knew that
No, I didn't. I didn't start writing my book till about I think probably like 5 or 6 months after I was still sort of like had the glow of having sold a book and felt like that was fun.
Yeah.
And then it took about 5 or 6 months to really start getting into it.
So when you had about 5 or 6 months to write it, that's when you started.
And I had like 7 or 8 months to write it, but I didn't do anything for a long time. But maybe I needed to do that. I don't know.
No, well, that's a good question. I mean, I'm driven by panic. Are
Yeah,
you?
absolutely.
And you like structure. So once you know the structure is there, you just sort of panic and then, just dump that energy into the structure, and
I
that's
think
it.
so.
But like TV scripts, it's interesting in my limited experience of it. You do sort of move things around. You know when things are supposed to turn and when something's supposed to happen. The reason I'm fascinated with The Office around this stuff, and I really don't talk to a lot of people about the process, is that you want to believe a lot of that is improvised. That the nature of the show and the way it's shot, like I always want to believe that it's completely natural and it just happened organically. How much of that happens?
A pretty small percentage, especially now that Steve is gone, because he's like a masterful improviser. But
Yeah.
I think a pretty small percentage. I mean, if you'd ask Ed or Rain, they might say more, but I think it's like 5%.
Really?
Yeah.
And when Steve was there, like you didn't know what he was going to do sometimes, or
Yeah, no, Steve would improvise more. Maybe it was more like 10% of the time. But for the most part, like actors want that same structure too. Like they improvise, but only after like 7 takes of it getting it scripted or whatever. So, but with Steve and with Rain especially, their improvisations have really helped episodes. Yeah, like I mean, what they've improvised was incredible.
do you have a specific moment in mind where you were just sort of like, oh my God?
Yeah, it was. I wrote an episode called "The Injury," second season of the show, and Rain improvised a line when he's getting into the van. It's Meredith's van. Meredith is like the drunk, and they borrowed the van. And John's character Jim is driving Rain to the hospital because he got into an accident, and he's a little delirious. And Michael and Jim are telling Dwight not to act up so much, and he goes, I don't know. I'm not saying it doesn't sound so hilarious now, but
right.
He says, I don't work for this van or something, like, because Michael was his boss. And I just was extremely funny. And like, it just, it
was one of those moments where it's like,
it was so great. It was,
yeah. Where did that come from?
It was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, you get an amazing opportunity to work with some pretty spectacular comedic forces. You being one of them.
Thank you.
So, okay, so you're doing some movies. You've been in a few movies. Mm-hmm. What is the book is doing well?
Yeah.
And you're happy with it?
Super happy. Number 6 in the New York Times.
But I mean, outside of that, you don't...
Just the success. I can only think about the success.
Yeah.
No, it's fun. I like it. It's the first thing. I was saying it's terrifying because it's the first thing that... The Office is great, and my episodes of The Office are great, but it's such a group of people who put it together and do it. Mm-hmm. But the book was the first time where if it was succeeded or failed, it would just be me. It's the kind of the purest expression of like what I'm about or what I want to write about or what my sense of humor is. So that was really that whole week beforehand. I was like, why am I so anxious? And I think that's the reason. Are
there any in the book? Is there anything that you felt was emotionally risky, or do you, in retrospect, think like, oh, why'd I put that in there, or why didn't I put this in there? Yeah, there's some personal stuff in there that I am always nervous about. Like what? I will say I was pretty confident going into it that nothing in there would like offend anybody or anything, but like in your family or in the general population. I think both. Yeah. I mean, I have a thing where like anybody else, I've had traumatic things happen to me, and like I have stories that I could talk about and have battled with lots of demons and things like that. But I'm not as interested in writing about it, and I think and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that like I have parents and I don't want them to be shocked or like made sad or whatever. And I think there's a lot of artists who can write stuff
and they don't necessarily think about that, or their parents are just so cool that it wouldn't do whatever. But I have this thing where I'm like, I want to be like a good role model and not talk about like sex or, drugs and that kind of stuff as much. But, I don't even know if I'm answering your question. I forget.
No, you're answering my question. I mean, I think what you're saying is that you wrote a line, out of respect for yourself, for your family, and out of public perception, that you thought that, instead of, not unlike your reaction to shock comics, that there was something, how you wanted to present yourself, you had control over that.
Well, and also, I mean, it wasn't that hard. I haven't lived this life where I've had so many like addictions or like these humiliating sexual experiences.
You don't have a sordid
No,
path.
I don't have that. So it's like not the place where I draw a lot of inspiration from. But some people have had incredibly interesting lives, really colorful stuff happen to them. And actually some people can write about things like depression or drug addiction like really well. And they can find a lot of good stuff out of it that's actually entertaining. But I don't have that.
Well, what are your demons?
What are my demons?
When you say you've struggled with demons, it's not in the book. I mean, I'm just sort of curious because, like, talking to you and seeing where you came from and what you've done, there's part of me that thinks, like, what could be her problem?
Like, what are my issues?
Well, I mean, what sort of plagues you? What are these battles, if you have demons? I don't think I've ever asked that question in such a general and straightforward way, because you said, like, I didn't put my demons in there. Now
I know. What are they? Maybe I haven't sat and thought about them that much.
Well, I mean, are you inordinate? Are you like hard on yourself? Do you like, what would you say? Like, what are your biggest sort of obstacles on a day-to-day basis in your mind?
I think, again, I would say that as much as I love this podcast, I'd probably not use this as a platform to talk about all of that necessarily.
I'm not looking for all of it. I was just looking
There's
for
some
one.
of it.
Just a tip of the iceberg. Maybe.
I guess I don't know. I'm like a very competitive person. I'm like incredibly impatient.
Yeah.
I mean, these are things that I would change about myself.
Like competitive, like, do you have that sort of like, oh, fuck her, I'm going to show them? And, I mean, are you driven by a certain amount of spite and the desire to win?
I'm definitely driven by like a desire to win, for sure. Yeah.
Have you won?
I don't know. I probably will never think that I'm doing
winning?
fine.
Yeah.
I'm doing fine. I'm doing okay.
You're in the race.
Okay. Yeah.
And in terms of, so no sordid drug pass. Okay. I mean, I'm not trying to press.
I don't want you to think of me as that kind of person either. I want you to be like, oh, Mindy Kaling, she was like a daisy. What a great girl. Like,
No, I don't think that. I think that you seemed, honestly, to me, you seem very, focused, very driven, and very capable of handling your success, and ambitious. And, those are all good things. But if I just tweak that knob, I could see them as a little bit demonic.
It's interesting because you have this thing where, focused, ambitious, that where I know you don't mean it in the pejorative. I know that you mean it as, or maybe you do mean it in the pejorative. I don't know.
What do you mean by pejorative?
Well. But like, there's a way of someone that's funny. Like they're almost like when someone is funny, it's almost like it's a gift because you don't understand it or where it comes from.
Right.
It flows out of them in a way that's magical. Mm-hmm. And the thing about when you have your shit together largely and you don't sleep till noon and you take vitamins or do whatever else, and you're Indian American, you go to a good college, is that I think there tends to be this thing where it's like, well, the fountain must not flow as magically from her because she's more in control of her life. Mm-hmm. Like if I were to, if I was like Mitch Hedberg, all right? Total brilliant guy, secretly kind of out of control.
Kind of secret until the end, yeah.
Well, I mean, I didn't know.
Yeah,
Less secret to you, who probably were friends with him. But like that, you envy that because I'm not like that. Like I don't have that thing that's out of control or whatever. And I think that there's this thing where you're like, man, if I was a little bit more that way, or more like, if I had that, then maybe people would think, like comedy people, like they'd be like, oh well, she's the real deal. She's the real deal, or like she's extra funny because of it. And I mean, that's not something that bothers me a lot, but it's something that like I think about.
So you thought that I was like, it was sort of demeaning for me to say those things because you think that.
Yeah, you're not like the first thing you notice about you. You're fucking funny. You're awesome. You tell it how it is. You're like, what a focused, punctual person you are. And I'm like, what? That's not how you describe a great...
No,
it's
no.
okay. I'm fine. I'm okay with it. But I do think that's interesting.
Well, no, I've had to, as I do this podcast and as I talk to people that are, significantly younger than me in the industry, that I'm actually impressed. Look, I know a lot of drugged out whack jobs who, didn't make it. And I know a few that have held on and a few have burned brightly and then, died or disappeared. I mean, I see all that stuff. I don't have I no longer think that the only people that are worth it are people that have really pushed themselves to the edge. I have a slight envy, and I'm certainly not being condescending, in the fact that there are people that are funny that realize they're funny and realize how they're funny and how to sort of capitalize on that personally and as a career, fairly early on. I never had that.
Yeah.
And I'm not, and I'm certainly not condescending in the sense that I cannot say my way is better or anything else. I'm a little envious of it. I'm not putting you into some play. I mean, you're very funny and you do great work, but I do know that, you have your shit together and I don't. So it's not coming from a place where
interesting.
I'm not sitting here saying look at my system's better. I'm in my garage, and you're on a brilliant TV show.
No, but I mean, it's interesting. You're more of an Alexander Payne character than I would be. You know what I mean?
That's true.
And it's nice. And I mean that as a compliment.
Well, I like hearing that you have a slight envy of that. That you, in a way, you sort of struggle with,
yeah, when you're an Indian woman who wants to do comedy and you're trying to, do stand-up and go to M-Bar, I have grown accustomed to being underestimated. Different people have different chips on their shoulders, right? Some people, it's that they were...
Or maybe they're expecting you to be Indian.
Yeah, or to want to talk
to be
about...
a caricature.
Exactly, talking about Indian stuff. Or if it's not, then it's being a woman and, what kind of, girly things am I going to talk about? And, So I always, everyone has a chip on their shoulder, and I think that's probably mine, maybe. I don't know.
That people pigeonholed you before you even open your mouth.
I think so.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But I do that to other people, but I love being surprised. But,
So that was something you had to transcend, is in a way that you made an assumption, from experience that people were waiting for you to go, oh, hello, or they were waiting for you to be hackneyed as a woman.
Or do you, my mother's, make some observations about, and do my parents' accent and do,
the standard,
what it's being...
The ethnic format.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mother, yeah, right.
And, which is, so, gross to me. I mean, it's just, super
hackneyed?
Gross. Yeah, definitely.
Is that the main grossness?
Yeah.
And you think it's sort of demeaning for someone to do that?
Yeah. I mean, I think it is demeaning, and I have this thing with my Indianness or whatever that I have this thing where I feel like I don't deny it and I don't want to rely on it. And when it's interesting, then I'll do something about it. And if not, then I forget I'm Indian most of the time. I think I identify as a Jewish male because that's the people I spend time with. No, really, I will go out to lunch with our writing staff. I'll go to lunch and we'll be walking by a window or something, and I'm like, fuck, I am Indian. I don't look like these guys at all. And I'm Indian. I'm a dark-skinned Indian woman. I'm not this guy named Ruben from, Great Neck.
You're not pudgy with a beard?
No, but I'm that's how I feel. You just start feeling, I think, like everyone that you work with.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Well, I found that to be the case. But,
I'm very impressed with your career and your output, and I think you're great. And I hope it wasn't. I hope I didn't seem.
No. I love this podcast. I think it's so great. I mean, I've listened to so many of them, and the way that you talk to someone that you came up with.
Yeah.
I mean, we obviously didn't come up together. We don't even have the same
jobs. Did we meet once?
I don't know.
I don't know if we even met. I feel like I know you. That's the weird thing because
really?
only because it's one of those situations where I love your character. So there's part of me that, I have to fight a certain fanboyness with certain people where I'm I can't.
Who's been the most fanboyish who have you gone on the show and you've this is awesome?
Well, there's comics that I love talking to and I have a lot of respect for. Richard Lewis, Jonathan Winters, Odenkirk, McDonald. And a lot of them are my peers.
Right.
And a lot of people I came up with or I kind of knew. But John Hamm, I had a very difficult time separating him from Don Draper.
He's stymied by his good looks.
No, that. But I can't get past the character, and same with Cranston. It's usually with actors, where Cranston's character in Breaking Bad. I'm a little obsessed with both of those characters.
Fuck, Breaking Bad is so good.
So good.
okay, the coolest thing about John Hamm, he drinks Budweiser.
Sure. Why? That's great. Yeah, there's a lot of cool things about John Hamm.
Can you believe that?
Yeah.
If I was John Hamm, I'd never be within 100 feet of a Budweiser.
Oh, you build a loyalty. You grow to rely on something. You believe in it.
Get famous and then you just ditch everything that you came up with.
Hey, Budweiser's Budweiser. You know what I mean?
That tastes like shit. Like, I feel like he's doing it to be like, I'm still like this normal guy. And you're like, you're not. You're John Hamm.
Maybe it does the job.
It does, certainly. Yeah, it's true.
Here, I had these fortune cookies left over. Let's open them. And then I'll let you go because I know you got to be somewhere.
When is this from? What is this?
I don't know. They're from a Chinese restaurant.
From how long ago?
No, they're edible. And they're not too old. What's your fortune?
You are open and honest in your philosophy of love.
What do you think? Is that true?
Honest. It doesn't seem true to me.
Do you have a philosophy of love?
Well, philosophy of love is like, I'm not open and honest. I fully believe that girl thing of like, can't ever ask a guy out, can't know anything about you, to be really demure and all that stuff.
Oh, you do? Yeah.
That tends to work.
Right. But for how long?
Listen, I'm not looking for a husband. I mean, I'm talking about this is not, maybe this means like long term, like deep down.
Mm-hmm. I got good things are coming to you in due course of time.
That's great.
Yeah, it's taken a while.
I like that one because it's out of your hands. You're like, great, perfect. Takes no introspection.
Is yours in Spanish on the other side?
Oh yeah,
that's hilarious. Los cosas buenas le llegaron a su debido tiempo. All right, can you do that in Latin?
This one? To us? No, I'm not gonna do that. That's nerdy.
All right.
Even I know.
Could you do it though?
Could I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Tu est expendo et sacrum in philosophia et amora.
Nice. Thanks, Mindy, for coming.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Mindy. Lovely conversation. I enjoy talking to her. And thank you, people, for listening. If you need anything WTF related, of course, go to WTFpod.com. Get your apps. Get your premium episodes if you'd like to purchase those. Get on that mailing list. Kick in a few shekels. Buy a T-shirt. Do whatever you got to do. Leave a comment. Even though some of them are, leave little to be desired. Is that how that saying goes? JustCoffee.coop. Haven't done this in a while. Let me kick it. Pow! Wow, I just shit my pants. JustCoffee.coop, available at WTFpod.com. If you buy the WTF blend, I get a little on the back end. Get a few shekels in the deal I made with the coffee folk up there. I hope you're okay. Come out and see me this weekend in Grand Rapids, or come to Bloomington if you'd like. What day was that? What did I do with that piece of paper? Wait, how come I can't? Why would I take that piece of paper off and now not be able to find it? What is wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Hold on. Where's that piece of paper? Found it. Yeah, Indiana. March 23 and 20 through 25, or you go to laughfestgr.org for the Grand Rapids Gilded Fest. That's the 15th and the 17th. And Hulu.com for A Day in the Life. All right. Okay. All right.